Chef Robert Irvine. If you have children that need to go to Good Grief Camp, this is a good time to start taking your kids to Good Grief Camp. And if you'd like to move in a little bit to some of these seats that are open, we'd love to have you up here towards the middle. So please come on in, and in about 5 minutes, we'll get started. Thank you.
God, nice bright lights, right?
Bright Light City.
That's Las Vegas. We're here in Arlington, Virginia.
We can make it Vegas.
Well, that'd be fun. Welcome. Good morning, everybody. We are so excited, getting comfortable in the seat here, to be with Robert Irvine. We love Robert Irvine. We know him as a celebrity chef. He's also a veteran. He's also a husband and father. A philanthropist and a dear, dear friend to our organization and a champion for all of us. He celebrates our loved ones and their life and service at every opportunity he has.
Yes.
So we thank you for that, and we thank you for being here. I heard, who was at the dinner last night? Anybody? Anyone? Oh, I see Crystal. Crystal was performing last night. I'm sure you were rocking out with her.
Crystal and I go back a long way. My wife said, "Who is this you're hugging?" And I said, "My second wife."
It's also your Taps family. I mean, I always say Bonnie Carroll's good for 1,500 hugs a weekend. I think Robert's probably.
Well, she's the archangel, so.
What fills your? Are you laughing?
I was going to say something, but I won't.
No, say it.
No,
Bonnie's
because
right there. Bonnie
is,
Carroll, everybody. Woo!
I mean, listen. I always say this when I talk in interviews and anything I do, not just this weekend because it's really special, but the people I associate myself with are amazing people because I don't have to associate with others, right? But what Bonnie does, no matter what happens, where it happens, one of her team touches base, and we know what's happened the last week. And I think that's really special, and there's not many people that I know on this planet that are so giving. I mean, obviously you, Diana, but and the team. But it's really important, and I don't think, me personally, and this is me, and we need to do a TV show or something, I don't think people really understand the depth of what Taps and who Taps are. And I think that's a bigger message that needs to get out. I mean, I know you do an awful lot on TV and whatnot, but I think there's a bigger play. I say to Judy all the time, this is the weekend that I get most excited about, and we celebrate our military, we feed our military worldwide. I travel 345 days a year, and I get home at about 11. But this is the weekend, and when I told this story yesterday about the dad that came up to me on the memorial wall, I literally burst out crying. And I'm supposed to be the tough guy on TV. I'm not tough, not where this is concerned. So, you know, I really can never tell you enough what it means that what you do for thousands of people and kids. It's something really, really special. And Judy will tell you, I won't work with anybody else. I'm like, nah, we'll do Taps. We'll do Taps. So.
Robert, you mentioned two things in that incredible statement that I want to touch on. One is how powerful it is to experience all of this, but what fills your cup? Taps fills your cup, but with all of the things you do and all of the travel you do, what is it? And what could you tell all of the survivors here about filling their cup and bringing joy into their lives when they aren't here at Taps? What do you do?
It's interesting because I told a story the other day about my childhood. I did not grow up rich or famous or with money. A dinner for me would have been 2 slices of white bread, butter, and sugar. That's how I grew up. So I tell people all the time, I'm blessed because at the end of the day, I wake up knowing I'm going to change somebody's life, whether it be on a restaurant if possible. A lot of you don't know, but we feed the military worldwide, literally, and it's not something that I talk about because, we're in Fort Jackson, we'll be in Poland. You heard me last night, feeding our troops. So for me, it's about giving back. And one thing I'm adamant about, especially, we sit with Secretary of Defense, Mark Milley tonight, is about the men and women that wear the cloth of our nation and our military. It's kind of interesting. 78% of our active duty military comes from military families. So when I go to the bases, and I was just at Fort Jackson, 0 to 10 weeks, and we have amazing soldiers, or you know, I go to Annapolis or wherever, and to me, to look as a kid that I've seen grow up like here in TAPS, and now they're young adults, or I go to Afghanistan and I meet somebody that I met 10 years ago in Japan. I think that's what the notion that I can wake up in the morning and change somebody's life, no matter where it is. And I always say that to change somebody's life, it doesn't cost money. It costs a little heart. Open the car door for somebody, listen to them, hug them when they need to be hugged, as long as it's okay with them. You know, buy groceries if you see them struggling. And that's my message all the time. If we all did one good thing for people we don't know, right? Because that's what you do every day, our world would be an amazing place. And food is what I call the international language of hope. When I put a plate of food in somebody, it starts the hard conversations. You know, there could be a death in the family. There could be a rape in the family. There could be, and by the way, I've had all these scenarios. And food allows that conversation, as tough as it is, to be opened up. I wish I could put a plate of food from every country around a table with the heads of state, take one bite, pass it to the right, so that people will really understand the culture and the differences that we have and make it right. Because we're all human beings, and the hate that we have in the world right now, it's saddening to me. And that's the antithesis of what I stand for. So every day when I get up, I'm like, how can I make a difference? Whether it be one person on the road. No, I'm not going to give a person begging for money. I might go and buy a pair of shoes or a meal or a sweater or a coat. But that's what we put on this planet for. And when I look around here, and this is my joyful place, guys. TAPS is my family. No matter where I am, on a NASCAR track, on a golf tournament, anywhere I am, doing something that I'm not with TAPS, and I spot a TAPS family or somebody tells me, I stop what I'm doing, I run over and I talk to TAPS, because they're more important. They're my family. You are my family. So I think that was a long-winded way, but
I knew this was going to happen. I was about to throw my cards in the air because, you know, I knew that I could ask you one question. We'd go for an hour and everybody here would be so interested. But you mentioned something about, you know, surrounding yourself with people of the same belief, who are on the same page as you are. You know, you have an incredible team at the Robert Irvine Foundation. The work you do is extraordinary, including funding programming at TAPS. We have an event for men in Las Vegas, Nevada, coming up next month, and that's all because of Robert and his generosity, and he'll be part of the event, which will be very exciting. But you surround yourself with people like Judy and David and Justin and this incredible team. What is it that makes you pull together such an incredible team to be able to execute this way with the same vision? I mean, Bonnie does it, right? We have our incredible staff who all believe in the mission, all believe in the vision. But how do people do that in their everyday lives? Surround themselves with people who fill their cup, who bring them joy, who are on the same page.
I think when you wake up in the morning, it's a great question. I've just wrote a book. It's coming out soon, all about creating teams.
I wish we had it here. We would have shown it.
It's coming out very soon, but it's all about how do you see the good in people and create teams. It starts with us in the morning when you wake up, and I say this to kids all the time. Did you make your bed? Did you make your bed? And they're like, no. Why? I don't need to. Mom's going to make it.
It's a very deep voiced child.
But I know. That child is 45 years old.
I was going to say.
But it's true. When you give somebody something to do in the morning, right, like a child to make a bed, most of our Fortune 500 company leaders started business by making the bed. And it sounds really something, but it's something you achieve. And I say the same to parents when you wake up in the morning. What are the goals you have for the day? I do a menu, for example, on a Sunday. I make the menu. I shop for it Sunday. I prep if I'm home for a week, so it's already done. It's the same in life. And I know things come up and change our lives every day. But there's some game plan of what you want to do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and how you want to achieve it. And it's so funny because you're all in the military background, which is exactly what we teach people to do. And I think when you surround yourself with like-minded people, it comes from them goals that you have. You know that you don't like, I can't say Hamilton. I don't know what she said. I can't read your name there. Madeline, I can't see, I'm old.
Hamilton.
I know that I don't like Madeline, for example. I'm not saying I don't. I'm just saying that somebody doesn't like you, right? And 1,000 people don't like me because I'm very truthful. And when you say something to somebody that's the truth, not meaning to hurt them, they can change. So people, when I go into a restaurant, for example, I listen to Madeline's story, and I've got two choices to make. Do I automatically like you, or do I don't like you? And it's got nothing to do with the person, it's what you tell me. So a couple of weeks ago, I had a young lady in Alabama, and I'm getting to your story, your question.
I'm being very patient, waiting,
I know, but
loving every minute.
You want to jump in.
I'm giving Maddie a Robert Irvine towel. It's kind of painful to hear you don't like her, so everybody gets gifts.
And by the way, I do like her, right?
You do now?
No, you're putting words in my mouth.
Okay.
Judge, it was her, not me. So I listened to the story, and it was a husband and wife and a daughter, 16 years old, that couldn't go to school because the restaurant was failing. She'd passed to get into a technical college, and she couldn't go because the family needed her. And I'm like, well, this is her future. How can we hold her back, right? So the whole show was about struggle and how this family had taken over the restaurant, but the family didn't have any money, couldn't repair it, couldn't do the things. And funnily enough, the landlord of the restaurant was the mayor of the town.
Oh, gosh.
I will tell you, I took an instant dislike to him.
You don't say.
Because he wouldn't fix anything, and he wouldn't take care of it, and he wouldn't give money to fix a high back and whatever. It was in such bad repair. I almost, for the first time, tried to find another location that was big enough to lease for them. Oh, wow. So I'm never that vindictive person. I never talk to the press. So a guy wanted to interview me.
You're so shy and quiet.
My therapist says I should come out of my skin, but I'm working on it. So I called the press guy over and I said, oh, you want to talk to me? Oh, yes, I want to know what's going on. So I literally railroaded, without names, the mayor of the city. I said, well, they got a landlord, just happens to be the mayor of the city. That's not doing this. Let me show you what's wrong. I mean, mold, the whole 9 yards. Oh. I cleaned it, I fixed it. Well, I got a letter 3 weeks later from the mayor's office. Said, Mr. Robert Irvine, we really appreciate you showing us the shortcomings of our mayor. He promises he will fix it. So I put it on television. Now I'm holding him accountable. So, you know, the roundabout way to the question is, you have to believe in who you are and what you do and how you're going to move forward in that week. And every week changes based on, you know, you go through post-traumatic stress and you go through these things that all of you have been through with loss. And I have David, you mentioned David Reed. I called him yesterday. He's one of my vice presidents of our foundation, lost his leg in Afghanistan, 11 surgeries. And I call him on these weekends and days because he goes into a state of remembrance and I want to make sure that he's okay. And he was sitting at home yesterday. I said, why are you at home on your own? Jump on a plane, get here. The only reason he wasn't here is because we go for Scotland on Tuesday and his passport was out of date. So, but I think, yeah, he's got to go and find it tomorrow. But
tomorrow's a holiday.
We have some connections.
Okay, good. So does Bonnie.
We have some connections that open up on a Monday.
I was going to say, there are so many things that I want to touch on, but I think everyone in this room heard Bonnie talk about the incredible international presence here at the seminar and what TAPS is doing internationally. But when you talked about, meals and going around the table and everybody sharing, Bonnie, that would be such a fantastic way to bring together an international group and have Robert host a meal for us. And I think I was just inspired by that. And what you said in the sharing of food and the way to someone's heart, I've heard, maybe you have too, is through their stomach. And you have gotten into all of our hearts. And the one thing in here that got the loudest applause, although everybody loves Restaurant Impossible and everybody loves everything you do, is the fact that you're a veteran. Is that the beginning? Was that the beginning of all of this? Was your service? And would you take a couple minutes and tell us about your service?
Yeah, I joined the Navy. It's funny. It goes way back before. So 11 years old, my dad came home. My dad was an Army guy. My brother was an Army guy. And my dad came home and said, look, I met this guy, a chief in the Navy, who runs a Sea Cadet unit. A little different than it is here. It's like, here I think the Sea Cadets are like the Cub Scouts kind of thing, a scouting movement. There it was full uniform that the British Royal Navy used. And the British Royal Navy, unlike the Navy here, with the one crease in the trousers, these were woolen trousers. And you had to literally take soap, a bar of soap, make a line, and then fold them like there was, depending on the height you are, depending on the amount of creases, so the 7 C's or the 5 C's. And you had to wear pajama bottoms underneath because on a hot day, the soap melted and irritated your leg. It was ridiculous. But anyway, and that's how I joined the Navy. I literally joined the Navy at 15. I was a great Sea Cadet. I would go away for weekends. I'd be on bases and warships. And I loved it. I didn't, so much so that I didn't go to school. And my mother...
Wait, you didn't go to school?
Well, I'm going to tell you. The 3 things I really enjoyed were home economics, sports, and woodwork. The rest of the time, I didn't go to school. One day, I'm sitting at home drinking beer at 11 years old.
Good Grief Camp is not invited to this portion of the ceremony.
Not for the faint. And my mother called, and I answered the phone. That was the demise of Robert Irvine. So she marched me to the recruitment office, and because I had parental authority, I took the Navy and English test, which was, 1 being highest, 5 being the lowest. Well, I got 5.5. I mean, I'm not exactly the smartest cookie on the planet, or I wasn't then. And the recruiter said, congratulations, you have just joined Her Majesty's Royal Navy. And I said, woof, great, you're going to be a cook. And I said, great, because I loved the home economics. The reason I joined a home economics class, because there was 50 or 33 girls and me. It wasn't really for food. But I made my first quiche Lorraine. I took it home, quiche Lorraine being a piece of pastry with bacon, eggs, and whatever, onion. And I was amazed that putting eggs and mixing things could create this meal. And my dad was a real meat and potato Irish guy. So I'd take all these chicken fricassees and rice dishes and quiche, and he'd be like, what is this crap? And that's exactly how my career started. I joined the Navy. I went on a warship where I did my basic training first. And out of 8 weeks training, culinary training, I was number 1 at 16 years old. No, it was kind of weird. So I joined my first warship, and I started something that is still to this day across the British military. And I'll tell you a funny story about that in a second. But I started afternoon tea, which was little sandwiches, tea, cakes. So at 4 o'clock every day on a warship, they all came into the galley, and we had afternoon tea for 240 men. And my commander, his name was Commander Payne.
Payne?
Payne. Yeah, literally. He said, okay, but we should do it for the wardroom. And I said, sir, it's okay, we'll do it for the wardroom, but they have to go into the main galley, because I wanted cohesiveness. So we started that, and I was on a vice chairman and chairman's tour about 2 years ago where a British warship was in Rota, Spain, and an American warship. So, vice American, we went on the British ship, and the steward in the wardroom was telling the admiral who this guy was, had no clue it was me. And I walked out, and the admiral said, well, you know whose that is, right? And they went nuts. So we still do that. And that's how I started my career. I worked for a 2-star admiral, Admiral Warsop, and my dad disowned me for 2 years because he felt that when I joined the Navy as a cook, it was subservient. So he didn't talk to me for 2 years. And then when the admiral had a garden party, he wanted to come to it. And it took 8 years for me to get back talking to my dad. Yeah. So, and he passed away 7 years ago, and we were all made up and whatever. And he would come and spend 8 weeks here with my mom a year, and we would do the shows. He would travel with me. Loved the life, cars, hotels, being somebody different. But yeah, it was not a good 8 years.
Well, that's interesting. You know, that leads me to a question that's, again, I could throw the cards in the air. The importance of family and how if you have people around you who can help you create the family that you might be missing. And I think so many people at TAPS do that, right? We connect with others who help us down the journey, peer-based emotional support, but the people who kind of come in, the mentors who mentor our kids, fill spaces in our lives. So that must be something that you see as something that happens at TAPS that's meaningful, and why TAPS is an important part of the work that you do at the Robert Irvine Foundation.
So why I really equate to TAPS, not only did I have no food, did I have no support system, my support system came when I was in the military. So I had mentors in the military. Remember, a 16-year-old kid, some of you got 16-year-old kids. I was on a warship in the middle of the Falklands at 16 years old, going to a war that I knew nothing about as a cook. And I can tell you, I had a guy who was an older guy from Plymouth. His name was Harry Jones. He was a leading cook, an old grandfather kind of figure. And I don't know if you know, but you probably don't, but on a warship, when it goes to war, we don't cook, right? We throw a bunch of stuff in a steam kettle, we lock it off, we crack the steam so there's something hot when we finish action stations. But then the cooks become different, like become firefighters, they become whatever. Mine was emergency resupply of a missile that would hoist up, put on, unplug, and plug it in to make it go. I was 16 years old, hanging over the side of a destroyer, trying to plug in a 3-prong plug with wet gloves. And I'm not kidding you, I have pictures of it. And they were actually chaff rockets to deploy to make sure the missiles didn't come near the ship. And we did. We got hit. Shaft didn't work. And in the Falklands, we lost a lot of ships and a lot of men. And a 78-day war. And that's all it was, 78 days. Margaret Thatcher sent a lot of people, 4,000 miles. We stayed to Ascension Isles, which is an American base. And then you're right to the Falkland Isles. So I grew up with mentors. Even on the ship, when we go to action stations, somebody would grab me and pull me and push me, and not in a bad way, by the way, just to make sure that I was safe. So when I see the mentors, and I know a lot of the mentors here, I thank them. Even this morning when I was walking up, I thank them because they are guiding your children until they become old enough to become mentors themselves. And that's what I love. I love taking somebody, and I think we should do cooking classes, because a lot of people ask me about that. But a lot of people ask me about that. Because I think that's a life skill. My mother worked, so I cooked at home. You know, that's how I learned to cook. So I would cook dinner, whatever it was, from whatever we had. And I think that's a life skill that not many people get taught. And yet, if they're going off to college, I have 2 girls. I mean, Annalise is 24 now, and Talia is 21. One's a lawyer, one's a doctor. And they learned, they were way smarter than me, but they learned to cook at home. So when they went out in the big world, they knew what to do. And I think that's a life skill. And food is a happy place. And when we talk about post-traumatic stress and traumatic brain injury, it can be triggered or it could be softened by food. So I think food is the ultimate equalizer, because it doesn't matter if I have billions of dollars or 3 cents, you still got to eat.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
I think, you being part of the Taps family, with I'd never heard your backstory and veteran. And so that was fascinating to me. But when people see you, they laugh, they're excited. Everybody has a story. Oh my God, did you know that we used to watch a show? Or my favorite hamburger was something we made from Robert's show, or Restaurant Impossible. Oh, did you see that kitchen before he walked in there? All of these things, right? Everybody has a connection to you. You bring so much joy, and you make it meaningful for all of us. When someone asks you, what's your Tap story? Is it making the meals here? Is it having someone at NASCAR? Oh, you've got one. Tell us.
I feel for me, the Tap story was on the float.
Aww. The first time?
Yep, with a little young lady.
That'd be Bonnie.
Huh?
Bonnie Carroll, the little young lady.
No, it wasn't Bonnie. It was a young lady who was stood by the side of the float. And I'm the joyful, crazy guy with kids. Kids do something to me. They bring out a kid in me, whatever it is. And I was talking to this young lady, and she was just pouting, like, I think she was like 8 years old at that time, something like that. And I said, get on the float. I'm going to throw you on the float. And she's like, no. I threw her on the float. And every mile marker, it was the first year we had a microphone. And I said to the kids, I would bring the kids up safely and say, where you from? Tell me about, and they'd tell me about the dad, that whoever it was that they'd lost. And that started to affect me. But this little girl, she wouldn't say anything. Then eventually, she came up and she told me about her dad and how he'd hanged himself with his tie. And that for me was like, where do you go with that? And I just hugged her, and she sat down, and she came up and she wanted to talk to me more throughout that whole trip on the float. And I ended up befriending her, buying clothes, sending gifts, and she became part of my own family with my own daughters. And I think that for me was the change of when I opened this and I said, we need to tell the world more. We don't need to tell them the real story, but they need to understand what TAPS actually does. And I think for me, it was an eye-opener. I was there all jolly, and then all of a sudden I had an 8-year-old tell me a story of grief. And I got to tell you, it helped me in my own show, my TV show, because if you watch Restaurant Impossible, when we started, I was like, I don't care. And now I'm like, tell me more. I'm listening more. I think it changed me, and I can tell you, Gail didn't do the first couple, and when I brought her here and I went home, and I would always tell her, because I always reflect on things, I would cry and repeat these stories, just like yesterday, and it's so powerful for me that I know the stories, but maybe twice a year some other people do. But survivors have 365 days of remembrance and years, right? And nobody remembers that. And I think that's the change of my TAP story. I've got 1,000 TAP stories. I mean, and right after that, we went into the bar with my team after the parade, and she was sitting in the corner with her mom, and I just said, hey, listen, if the food's good, go like this. If it's not, go like this. So I literally had a tequila with the team. I looked over, and she went. So I walked over to her. The chef had no idea. I walked in the kitchen with her, and she said the meatballs were rancid. And for an 8-year-old to say rancid, I'm like, right? That's exactly what she said to me. And I'm like,
SAT word.
all right, chef, get the meatballs out. Let's smell the meatballs. And sure enough, they were rancid. So I said, okay, I want ground beef. And so we actually made she made the meatballs right then and there with me. And it was her moment of trusting me. And we've been friends ever since. And her mom remarried. And she called me, and this was the strangest thing. She called me and said, because that's what I do, I give my number out. And I said, she called me and said, oh, Mom's getting married again. And, I think she's going to lose my dad. And I'm like, no, she won't. Do you like the guy? And I just became a mentor, for want of a better word. And I still do that when she went to school and she did her exams and, a prom and all those things. So I think that's, for me, why I love the Taps family.
Oh, yes, for sure. But that safe space you gave her is what we try to do at every Taps event anywhere.
Yeah.
So you have become a Taps mentor. You have become part of our Taps family. And we couldn't be more grateful for that. So before we go to questions, because everybody has an opportunity to
you get a protein bar, you get a towel,
and you get a bar, which Robert said I was doing, but he's going to do it. I have one question before we go to the audience, and Bree's going to run around with a microphone. Bonnie and I talk about moments in life, and I'm sure we've all had them. Whose crazy life is this? How is this happening? Why is this happening in this moment? The good, the bad, the crazy, but oh my gosh. What's one moment? You've cooked for presidents, you've traveled the world, you have done everything. I've seen pictures, oh my goodness. What is one of your whose crazy life is this moment? And then I got nothing because you answered everything.
Crazy life, geez. One of the coolest things as a cook, and I am a cook, people say, oh, you're a celebrity. Yeah, okay, by de facto. I think one of the craziest things I've had, I've cooked for presidents. I had a call from the president's first lady last week, saying, hey, Robert, I'm going to make a secret trip to Poland. Well, it's not secret anymore. Can you come with me? And I said, no, you don't tell the first lady no, because I was filming. And I think those moments where listen, I'm a little cook, a 15-year-old cook from England, and I sit next to some of the most powerful people in the world, and I get to offer an opinion, or opinions, because I'm very opinionated, on things. And I think they're all crazy. There's not one crazier than the other. I mean, I worked with Donald Trump for 4 years. Before he was the president, I run his casinos. I've worked with Biden twice, George Bush. I mean, I've worked for every president there is in living history anyway. I think in 2000, we did a dinner with the 6 presidents. And there wasn't 6 living presidents. One of them was Mrs. Lyndon B. Johnson. She was designated president for the night. I don't think we'll ever see that again.
Did you play rugby with Prince Harry at the Invictus games?
Did.
Okay.
I did. Actually, it was wheelchair rugby, and he sent me on the floor. I've got pictures of me on the floor. But I think there's so many, and I never think about these things. I just do them. There's so many things that I've really enjoyed. But one of the biggest joys for me, and I'm not kidding you when I say this, is this weekend. It's really meaningful when you walk around, and this room and these kids is very different when you walk around outside and you see families that are taking pictures at memorials and looking at the names. And yesterday, USAA, funnily enough, I've got a little, it's not little, it's kind of big, but presentation of poppies. And in Europe, poppies are a huge thing for Flanders. And there's 645,000 poppies, which represents every life we've lost from World War I to modern day. And when I was telling people about what these poppies mean, each and every one of them, or a name on a memorial, it's a family, it's a legacy, it's people. And I think that gets lost sometimes. You know, I ask a 10-year-old kid, I just went up to him. I had cameras with me, I'm like, so what does Memorial Day mean to you? Thinking he was going to say just remembrance. And he came out with a dissertation that was like a 27-year-old, like MIT student. It was so cool. I got it on camera. But what I truly believe in is that we, this generation, have to educate our children into service above self. And all you know what that is. But the outside world doesn't. And I find that scary, because when I grew up, I knew about history, I knew about loss, and I think without the loss of the shootings and the things we have in the schools, we've now got to educate those children, not only about safety, because now it's crazy, but why we have freedom, because 645,000 men and women laid down their life so we could walk these streets. And I think that's the biggest message I have, and how I try to go to schools and talk about that. Gold Star families are unique, and each one of them, each one of you, to them, have something special. Your husband, your wife, your brother, your sister, your parents. There's a journey, there's a story. And what I love is what TAPS tells the stories. Because I want to know each and every story. I want to know what your husband, your dad loved, and how we can celebrate that.
And that's beautiful, because as Bonnie has said for many years, love lives on, and we tell those stories, and we are the living legacy of our loved ones. I think it's time.
You can, but one more thing. One more thing. So I met a young lady yesterday on the mall wearing a TAPS shirt, and it was her first time here at TAPS. Her husband passed away in November. And she was with two other TAPS family that have been here since 2009, 2010. And it was such an amazing thing to watch, in the emotion of this first-time TAPS young lady and the two old-timers, as I call them, surround her with love and take her grief. Literally, she was crying when I walked up. It was so amazing to watch what you do and how you lift each other up. And that's, what Bonnie started, that's what Dad does. But to a person just watching who knows, it's fascinating. So I thank you all for lifting each other up and helping each other. Right, now we can do whatever.
All right. Yes. So we're going to open it up for some questions, and we are going to do a la Oprah. You get a bar and you get a bar. So you've got questions.
You get a bar!
Well, nobody's over there. So, all right, go ahead. Stacy Falzerano.
Hi, I'm Stacy. That man up there is my very handsome husband. He passed 2 years ago, and cooking is no fun anymore. So I cook for one, and I have 3 little ones. One only eats French fries, one only eats frozen chicken nuggets, and the other one only eats peanut butter and jelly. So I end up skipping dinner. Advice?
So you want to know how to make them all eat healthy?
Because I would like more real food, yes.
Well, I'm going to tell you, for me, when my girls were young.
She gets 3 because she's got 3 kids.
No, it's got peanut butter and jelly. This is peanut butter and jelly. It's really good. It really is. I had Smuckers make the jam that's clean. There's no pectin, there's nothing in it. It's amazing. So when my kids were young, Stacy, I took them to a supermarket. And yeah, I know it's hard with 3 kids, but I had 2. And I said, pick 5 vegetables. I took them home, put them out with blindfolds on. And I said, taste them raw. And then I cooked them with the kids. Then I blindfolded them again. I said, taste them now. And for everyone they got right, I give them 25 cents. I made it a game. So my kids grew up not eating garbage. Now they eat garbage at 24 and 21. But when they were growing up, we made chicken nuggets from chicken, not real, the golden arches things. I think the more you play with food with kids, it doesn't matter what age they are, they get used to it. For example, I would get my kids to eat olives. They hated olives. Why? Because at the age of, they were 6 and 5 and 8, something like that, 3 years between them. Their taste buds are 3 times more intense than ours. And as we get to 40 years old, our taste buds change. So they would eat this stuff. I remember doing a thing with Michelle Obama right here in DC at an after-school program. And I worked for 2 days to completely redo this 2 buildings. And the kids had breakfast. So my crew's breakfast, I would give the kids, because a breakfast for them was a Coke can and some like Snickers bars for breakfast. And one thing you need to do is make sure that breakfast, that's why I started this bar, because my girls would not eat breakfast. This bar is 8 years old. It literally is 8 years old. But that's why I started the bar. So take your kids, have fun with them. Let them make a mess. Let them make a mess. I'm telling you, if you let them bake something and flour goes everywhere, and it's fun and they get flour on your nose or in your hair, it's a pain, I know, but it creates a fun environment for them to learn. And I do it with adults on the show. Same thing. I let them make a mess. I let them throw things, chop things. And when Annalise was 2 years old, I had the sharpest knife. It was a titanium knife in front of 3,000 people on a milk box. And she was cutting tomatoes at 2 years old. And people were like, you're so bad. You're a bad dad. She cut the tomatoes better than anybody. She didn't cut her fingers. And I think allowing them to grow up with safety, you'll see a big difference, because they start to eat differently once they start to understand food. Right now, it's just green, pink, yellow, whatever. They don't understand. By the way, there's no nutritional value of these food anyway, any more tomatoes and stuff. But
anyone? Question? Go ahead.
you should try it. It's amazing. But now it's like $1 a piece, not 25 cents.
We'll go up here. Sorry, we'll go there first.
Chef, thank you. As a veteran, fellowship used to happen around food when we had a chance. And I'm from Louisiana, where we live to eat. We don't really eat to live. But what I've noticed is a lack of fellowship around the meal. And I wonder if there's a meal you would suggest that promotes fellowship. A crawfish boil is a great time, but we're busy shoving that food in. Is there a fellowship meal that you would say, an American fellowship meal that you would say,
yes,
this is
absolutely,
the one to offer?
And by the way, a crawfish boil is not a fellowship meal. And I'll tell you why. Because you're so focused trying to get it and suck the head, you're not talking. Not a fellowship meal for me. So I wrote a book. Called Family Table, because my kids would come home when they got older, and they're on this all the time, right? They don't want to. So I make them, when they come home, there's a basket at my front door. All the phones go in, they're turned off. I turn the internet off in my house, so you cannot get to it, right? So we sit down with a meal, and that meal is always comfort food. Mashed potatoes, roasted broccoli, roasted carrots, chicken or beef, whatever it is, but it's things that they grew up with that you used to love. So whatever your comfort is what your meal is. And if it is sucking heads out of fish, great, but it's not mine, because I want them to be able to, so I make the least amount of work. I cut the chicken up, so all you got to do is put it on your plate. Scoop mashed potato, peas, whatever it is. So there's no breaking of lobster shells. I can't afford lobster, by the way, but anything like that, because you don't want it to detract from the conversation. And I let my girls, because they're very opinionated now, I let them start the conversation. Like, what do you want to talk about? How was your day? I think we've lost thanks to these things I've got in my pocket and this thing. We've lost the art of conversation. And I think the minute you take this and you put it and you turn it off, at least for an hour. And when I grew up, I wrote a book about my growing up. Every Sunday was the only Sunday we had a meal together. And we have got away from that. And if we can get that back, you start to see issues with your kids more so, right? Because we're so busy trying to live, especially nowadays with inflation and we got to work and we got to do this. And I think food is a great conduit to those conversations, like I said earlier. So I would say anything that's comfort food. And for me, it's roasted chicken and mashed potatoes. My girls love it, even today at that age.
I think I know what I want to make for dinner. So come on up and get some bars. Who else has a question? Where can we? There we go.
So I used to watch Food Network.
What do you mean used to?
Well, it's so I used to. It was my husband and I, and I was a terrible cook, terrible. And one day, he would just always get really excited about whatever I made, and I was like, wow, like have I really come that far? And he said, baby, this is better than an MRE. So, and you get better every day. And so he made it fun for me to cook because he would literally eat any disgusting thing that I made until I was actually, I call myself a gourmet cook, not a chef. But anyway, since he passed, it's just not fun anymore. And
listen, come here. We can make it fun, right? We can make it fun when we do some cooking lessons, okay? And we'll remember him, and we cook something he used to cook that was really terrible, and I'll eat it, and I'll go, oh, this is really terrible. I mean, really good.
Yeah.
What were the things you like to eat?
Well, he was a meat and potatoes kind of guy.
It's like me. My dad was a meat and potatoes guy, and the funny thing was, when I would come home with all this like fancy stuff, and it really is chicken in a sauce with vegetables, and he thought it was fancy, he was like, what is this crap? There's no kids, right? No kids. He would say that to me all the time. I'm like, Dad, this is like French. And he's like, French? Do I look French? You know, you give me all this hard stuff. Food can be fun, and I guarantee we're going to get a program where we do food like 14 different places around the country, just like you do the sports, and we'll have some fun with it, okay?
Just like, how do you make it fun for 1.5 people?
Instead
Oh,
of like,
believe me, I can make it fun. I can make it fun. Can you do push-ups? Right.
He taught us well.
Push up. Let's go. Let's go. Yeah, let's go. I need to see one push-up. One push-up. All right. That's showing off now. That's showing off.
All right, we've got towels, Fit Crunch bars. I know John Gaines had a question. He's got his hand up over there. Fit Crunch bars or a towel?
Listen, I got it.
And delivery.
These are. Here's a little ego push for a minute, but you put these on your back of the phone, right? The little stickers. Look. And you will never be without me. Right? Put them on the back of the phone. And I'm going to promise, we're going to name it after you. We'll make some money, and we'll make some space, and we'll make some food.
At your service. Yes. John.
Good morning again, Chef.
How are you?
This is not a food question. So we have the Las Vegas event coming up
Yes.
this month for the men. What is it you expect to experience with the surviving men of TAPS during that experience?
It's really interesting because I don't expect anything. When you get into my restaurant and you get together just like this, things happen that we can't explain. I can tell you when we did it a couple of years ago and it was mixed, it wasn't men, it was men and women. It was the most amazing thing. All they said was, we're going to pick teams and we're going to cook, or we're going to make a salsa.
Oh, God.
Salsa, and it was teams, and I had each chef, one of my chefs, buy them so they didn't cut the fingers or whatever. We made salsa, and then we used the salsa for dinner. And it sounds really simple to make a salsa, right? It's not when people don't cut. But what happened in that it created a team of people. It was red, white, and blue team. Surprise. And it created a bond between people making a salsa. And at the end of it, all these people told their stories to each other. And I got to tell you, I mean, I burst into tears, no problem. I'm good at that. I'm good for at least one tear, like one manic cry a week. And I think the magic happened. And I said to Diana, I'm like, we need to do more, number one, but you can't, it's like a television show, right? You don't know what's going to happen until it actually happens. And there was something came over that restaurant, not only with the folks that were there, but the visiting guests that would come up and say, hey, thank you. I don't know how to explain it. It's something special. You'll experience it.
I just want to warn you that the men are different, so be prepared for that.
I want to warn you that you think men are different. They're really not.
Let's go to this lady. She's right there. She's been super
They really
patient.
are not.
The competitive nature of sport is
Women
going to get us.
are way smarter than men. My wife tells me every week.
Thank you. How have you taken care of your mind health coming up as a child, growing into the man you are in your profession, with life demands now that come your way and your interactions with people around the world? What is your journey like for your mind health, not mental health, but your mind health?
That's an interesting question. I mean, our foundation, Robert Irvine Foundation, takes care of mental and physical health in a lot of different ways. We've partnered with some great people, Boston University and so on and so on and so on, and give you a list of those. But for me personally, mental health, I've not had to deal with, yes, I've had to deal with loss. I was on a warship. I lost a lot of people when it was sunk. It never comes up until this weekend because I block it out. I compartmentalize things. But then I have an outlet. My outlet every day is a gym. So I can control my feelings. No, I can't control them. I can control them to a point, but my hour in the gym every morning gives me that me time, right? I have 3,863 employees. I don't deal with them every day, but I deal with 1,000 phone calls a day, no matter where I am. And it can be General Millie, it can be Doug McMillan from Walmart, it can be somebody, right? And they want to talk to you. I have a rule: 3 o'clock in the morning till 5, because then I start filming, is my time. Don't call me, don't bother me, I put Celine Dion in my ears, or no, hang on, it sounds really funny, but I've got military marching band music that I work out to. I'm crazy, and of course see the voices, but it's my time, and I need my time because I have so many things going on. I'm on a plane literally every day to a different country or a different state, or sometimes twice. So for me, the workout is my escape. I'm very blessed in that my staff now understand that. They try, and I'm like, no! But I can wake them up at 3 o'clock in the morning if I'm on the West Coast. So we have a rule, and it's a really big rule. If I get a phone call from somebody I need to answer, and it's a big move, I need to get that answer in 15 minutes. So the phone has to be picked up in 15 minutes, no matter what, no matter where we are, because I've got to answer somebody that's bigger than me. And it means getting food to somebody quickly. So I think the gym is my mental escape. I read a lot, biographies and things like that. I also watch a lot of cultural stuff. Have you ever watched Paperclips, the documentary? Paperclips. I know, I read an awful lot about loss because it helps me. It helps me kind of when I go into situations. And I wasn't kidding when I said I was, aggressive, shall I say, that's an understatement, when I started Restaurant Impossible. And now I'm kind of, hi, how are you?
We know you weren't kidding. We've seen the show.
Until you annoy me, and then I'm like, no. So I think that's how I deal with it. I think you have to have an outlet. You can't always be the answer to any questions with your kids or your families, or you need alone time to kind of, and whether that's doing Pilates, yoga, walking, running, whatever that is, you have to take that time to do it, because it's for you. Even my wife and I, during COVID, I mean, geez, I got COVID July the 1st. We didn't have anything to fix it. I was in hospital for 6 days, and it was not pretty. But when I came home, we had to separate, right? So she was on the outside and I was on the inside, and I was literally fixing 3,000 restaurants from a computer. And it was great because I didn't see my wife for like 4 weeks. Because she was over there. We would literally, I could see her, but we would phone because she couldn't come near me. It was kind of funny. But then you realize, you know, what you miss and you know, who your friends are and all those kind of things. But I think alone time is good.
All right, so we literally have probably 60 seconds left. So let's do quick questions, lightning round answers.
Right,
You're
go.
up next.
Go.
Hi, Chef.
Hi.
I have 6 kids, and I feel like a short order cook all the time. But my one child, Jake, is 16, and he got a recipe from you on your website once, and it had to do with rice and shrimp and star anise, which I have no idea what was, and I had to order it off Google. But is there any other kind of snack that you could recommend so we can stop eating rice with star anise, please?
I'm going to give you, because it's lightning round, I'm going to give you an email. You send me an email, and I'll send you 25,000 things, right?
Who else? Lightning round. Quick question. Go, right here.
Hi, mine's not food related, but I wanted to thank you for bringing up the poppies in Flanders Fields. 53 years ago, I was the local district and first runner-up to Maryland, Betty Poppy Queen.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else? Go, right there.
Mr. Irvine, I feel like I've walked into my hero's house this morning. I had no idea who you were, except I eat your bars all the time.
You got to stop. Look at the size of your arms, dude.
Everybody, come on up if you want bars. I'll toss them out. We'll get them to you.
I'm not a TV guy, so I didn't even realize who you were. But I see your face all the time. And my one important question for you is, when are you going to make the mint chocolate chip bar in the full size? That's the
so right now, I can tell you right now, some really exciting stuff. We do about 11 million bars a month right now. We're now having, in 2 weeks, have a brand new plant. We're coming out with the Bounty Bar, cookies, trail mix, and that and the cinnamon will be big bars. So it's coming. It's coming.
Okay, this is going to be a la Oprah. You get a bar, and you get a bar, and you get a bar. So we are good. Robert, here, you can start tossing them out, too. Our thanks to Robert Irvine for being here, for loving us, for being part of the Taps family, and welcoming us into his heart.
Come and do cookies.
Is she here?
Yes.
Okay,
Dallas,
here we go.
Dallas, I love
One
Dallas.
per customer.
Oh.
Thank you, Robert.